Please consider the nature of the issues of debates and of facts treatments in sequence since founding. And please consider how each nation was forced to force shared policing nature with marked positions. Each nation was forced with originally forced terror laws and divisions, and only let predatory education realized and so predatory human nature realized. So, in other words, we have a protraction of business that is not stability, but is claiming stability, no, in relationship to what it holds on the edge of wars as a normalized thing in relation to physical delusions forced to the facts treatment. So, for example, I don't. The nature of complex litigation of liars. When people are going to lie in international station nature, everyone has to lie because everyone's forced to be realized as a nation in relationship to what is inherently not the only positive value nature system. There are proofs of it. That's why poverty stayed. That's why we lost the war on poverty, and we can't admit it. For example, when people say, well, they ask questions, they play like, if with the is America great or something, sense things like that. You know, there's negative value nature and positive value nature progression everywhere, juxtaposed. So, it, and the only thing that is great is what's correlated as a species value and is positive to Earth too. That we are correlation nature to understand this actively. But human education was sabotaged. No, in other words, human standards were sabotaged. And what holds it like this are negative value, in other words, our retreat natures, time impositions upon our leaders, and not by accident. That's what colonization's laws were for. But it was per what, or even kings and queens were only let realize too, which was a criminally re-engineered education. No one understood, except for what maintained internation coalition, not as as a criminal enterprise, an archetypal criminal enterprise, one that juxtaposed other criminal enterprises with it. I'm not a police, I'm not an officer, I'm not a criminal. This is complex litigation. This is what predicate acts are referred to in relationship to. And there are proofs that we don't have one legal nature in any nation, that not by accident, because of the nature of an organized crime method that forced treatments only let realized, where everyone would have to rely on experts as facts, not realizing they're not using real facts as facts. They're using expert opinion and mistreatments of facts. In other words, ways with this, exploiting the nature that entertains that, the logic with it. It's evidence fabrication nature to all areas, and it's blaming it on, they're saying, on negative value nature, retreats nature, reactions that not one nation has not been allowed to not realize. In other words, this is the only reason it's not called the extortion of our founders is because then they have to justify it in relationship to the our treatments of the law, and which are shared to negotiated treatments broke. Incapable, especially with bombs, and with geopolitical. I mean, with colonizations, infrastructural standards playing out, even though they didn't have machines. We have big buildings, but people don't live in them, and there's no nature there. The ancients that they criminally re-engineered ancient revelations, actual human internation sciences, the actual nature of nations were only access to the common value nature system, to the common understanding. Cultivation revealed all the life forms that we made incapable of staying but through hands that are in a forced market position. They denatured the Native American landscape. I say, see, Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Museum in Connecticut, right in the edge of Rhode Island, until you right in the ocean. But it's the oldest Native museum, and they remember the facts about how they denatured the landscape to force. They burn woods, they denatured clam beds, they natural food sources, education, make everyone a retreat nature, fighting, time and positions, illusions, and forced hate. And that's how they divide and conquer. Before they did it in the physical, they did it with an organization, organized crime organization, a method, a breaching method, evidence fabrication method to all areas of all nations. So when they ask those our politicians to play those entertainment of facts, like little broken grammar school, with of course they're going to be odds in relationship, because the parties are entertaining it, forcing this entertained upon their own candidates. They don't understand, because that's the only way that's where they were trained, not actual law. We haven't had the actual law defended. We've had law just the rationalizations in relationship to forced negotiations, forced market positions, forced commodity landscape in ways we don't even realize. We don't even see it all because everyone's playing the game. No one understands value. No one understands identity. It's right here for science to show, but we have science forcing physical delusions and lies about what it is. And this is why we're a species. There's only one system that's actively demonstration to us. That's why there's only one campus martius that's proper. The campuses have been ill since ancient times, not by accident. Criminal re-engineering of ancient revelations was effective. So, like for women's rights, they're entertained to a box, and you lose with fact treatments of them already. In other words, we're not dealing with the real facts that are the real impositions upon them, because the real impositions upon women's rights and children's rights and elderly's rights, they're being ignored and lied about. And worse, they're being exploited to all areas per a method maintaining the means to do this under the guise of all kinds of ways that the nature of our stewards are compromised, our database relationships, not by accident. So we can't fix this. Like people say, oh, evil. If you say evil, people saying evil and blaming other humanity, they're only of a nature of logic that the liars at the complex litigation level with international statutes, for example, in relationship to what stability is, and what in relationship to bombs too. They don't and business and freedom. Constitution cannot be defended as business. There's proofs that we lost on many fronts in the American Revolution, and this nature of these natures of facts treatments are forbidding. Because the rest of the world hears what our politicians say and the train of logics used. So if we entertain insidious and the needs of insidious, evidence fabrication natures that are the mass of opinions being forced on the candidates, that's all that's let them to be trained. But that's not the real truth. So it's not the real law. But see, we don't have anybody defending. It's so bad that we've had education so bad for so long. We've had these exploited areas for so long. And that's not only been blamed on other things, but it's being exploited, blamed on us. So people are invested to not only lie about it now, but how it's been, they're invested to lie. And these are opinions that are unnatural per the cause of criminal persuasions. And only with criminal persuasions are natural they are. And it's not because of money, though. It's because of the nature of educational criminal re-engineering, nature of facts treatments. In other words, we're perpetually of a nature forcing entertainment of facts treatments and of convictions and of her conviction nature respected with the law and insidiously defended with opinion nature. In other words, so we can't fight with that nature of that being used by people who are also forced to share market positions in other nations. So in other words, our species were forced to perpetuate as pseudo identities, defending that, and as measured, and only being able to realize that trained as normal. It's not normal. So it's evidence fabrication natures being exploited by a criminal organization before and between all nations, into all areas. And how? Because with the chaos. The same evil that made those sectarian laws. It wasn't just slavery. It was all kinds of laws that were sectarian laws. That's what really made everyone indifferent to what it was and blaming on other things. So now, today, even though we have the proofs of this, they're not even addressed because people have been blaming it so long, and it's been leveraged through human education so long. It's all that was defended. In other words, people get violent and want to hurt people in this country just for telling the truth. And because when the truth starts coming out, it reveals the natures of logic that are surface, that are only speaking to surface shared truths, only in relationship to socialization, as trained to ignore our original retreats, and so many millions being hurt actively. And so then we have opinion natures not properly informed about that, and we have that everyone sharing needs to lie because everyone's blaming our actual negative value nature progressions and other things on lies and delusions. So the most important thing that we gain is the ability to admit that we lost on significant fronts of the American Revolution. And to what? Because England had already lost to this too. This is internation, and England was overextended like us, and we were forced like this. We never, in other words, our founders only dropped off Marbury versus Madison. Real justice should satisfy all appearances of real justice. In other words, but then evidence fabrication natures, they make things like slavery and like Jim Crow laws and stuff like that, and then even with that evil is entertaining that. In other words, as that's the law, that's civil rights, a counter to that. In other words, that's revolution. In other words, those are people that still are victim, were and are because it's still not explained right. The organized crime of with colonization was not explained right because no one's letting truth protract ratiocination and correlation properly. And one way you have to do this is to see and to let the land itself inherent value. Like, that's what I believe. That's what we should do with the Native Americans. It's not just the imposition of that pipeline, with the potential that it might go on to the water, that assumes that already demonstrable forsaken rights of theirs and forced denatured landscape and tactics upon them for that, which are more than there are minutes in the day as well. and then they're rushing the pipeline like that. Then once we lost all the fresh water, all the this landscapes, natural resources, not by accident. And what did that didn't want it understood. It wanted it, needed it, blamed on other things. We still have this going on, and then even with the movements to fix this, it's a progressive. It's a landscape theater. You know, that's in the Native American dreams. That's not just through talk, because there's a Native American chief somewhere on YouTube who said that we must read each other's dreams, and that's what he's talking about. In other words, and then until you correlate, because then you see there are other Native Americans that are very angry, and that's all they said. This is all denatured, the landscape, and no one knows how to make the words properly, because everyone is being forced to have box think. In other words, concept think, like women's rights or man's rights. In other words, physical delusions and time impositions and mistreatment of the nature of the law being forced into logic. That's then we're forsaking logistics. The logistical impositions upon women throughout this country, and it's in relationship to the nature of the linguistic extortion of both candidates, though, because especially on Hillary. And so in other words, these kids, they have the media is with roles with school bullying. This is where it's coming. This is connected to it, but it's connected to much worse. It's really with the crime progressions and the drugs, the drug problems, especially the prescription drug problems, and the ones that those adults involved with that through the kids. You know what I mean? This is through healthcare families that and natures of police that are to the corruption of our regular police because of their roles with international ones, and with stays to all areas that make people have to tell lies, and then they have to in other words, police are allowed to lie, but then they have to they're not supposed to lie about certain things, and then they have lie progressions, and that's in relationship to nature's organized crime that we're never let to address. People aren't let to address the facts with it, and when someone's trying to address the facts with it, because no one addresses the facts with it, they start sensing how they're realizing how police forms are standard telling people to lie in relationship to true proofs that prove logistical impositions upon all areas, especially exploited areas through time. And how, in other words, inseparable from murders, the same investigations that are putting these people away with roles with the same crimes. You know what I mean? Because we have systemic facts mistreatments, and we have nations of nations together forcing as evidence fabrication natures of logic, and blaming this on all the real life negative value nature progressions. In other words, everyone's going to continue to get hurt because there's a method to force that they made to force everyone blaming it on everything else, knowing we would. And knowing, in other words, when they said shock and awe, that was the trick. That was a trick that they fell for, a linguistic trick. Because it was legal natures from geopolitical campus from before our nation, with lie progressions in relationship to their justifications of logic as it, and in other words, the attack on the World Trade Center. In other words, there's all kinds of world police shared there. In other words, and with negotiations that they can't talk about this, and but her threats of sanctions in relationship to all kinds of ways that we're sharing these market positions. Sanctions are what the whole second debate, the final debate with Obama and Mitt Romney were about. But see, but no one was capable, no one had any response to those that at all, even though it was the whole substance of the debate. It wasn't just about. So then what? And then they can't address it, understanding it. So then in the background, everyone shares blaming it on Iran, and then theater, attacks a surface value nation that's also um, was forced to shared markets positions like us. We lost in many fronts in the American Revolution, and we're not alone as we've never been with the nature of our police. So it's not just to say, oh, our police. Of course, it's great, our service people, but then we're divided and conquered. So in other words, we have to attack. We have to. In other words, there's mistreatment of the intellect of the top-down legal natures of the police. And this is affecting the nature of the street level police. And it has affected the nature of the chiefs of police of Wethersfield through time. There are recorded proofs of this. And in relationship to systemic evidence fabrication problems and methods. So the media should have this issue. Are they? You know, let's talk about interscience roles with physical delusions and how this is they're insidiously forcing conversations in nature's. In other words, they say, "Oh, we have to talk in person," because then they can make up lies. You see what I'm saying? No, we have systemic evidence fabrication problems. We in nature. Then they have. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We have to admit we're lost, and we have to understand value from our exploited areas up. We have to make it active. We have to first make the landscape start being active, and we attach that to it's got nothing to do with business and all this. You gotta be sick to say that I don't know the things that people say in the background to justify what is forced in surface value logic. You know, with the not just with the media, with the sciences, and with the legal natures and why and how. In other words, we cannot separate. We have to understand how our police were never separated from top down, legal directives from foreign criminal terrorists. In other words, we negotiated with terrorists because they were not only did we negotiate with them, our founders had a plan to make everyone have to make their employments here, their entrenchments here, have to fight with each other, and no one knew what was going on. They just dropped off Marbury Rivers. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police force. I'm not a criminal. All justice must satisfy real appearance. True justice must satisfy all appearances of true justice. But we don't have this. So in other words, so then we have people who are going to lie, and they're going to rationalize it by interpreting it different ways. In other words, unchanging positive is truth. But they have mastered having everyone entertain logic like this and force time in positions. They just attach lies to truths and sequence nature truths, justifying actively to all areas. People have active interests to lie in relationship to most exploited areas in flesh and human consciousness. Actively. But there's no way to report these crimes because of the nature of how they stay. And maintaining the stewards of all areas to the needs to defend life progressions that our federal government doesn't see. That's they see all lies when their legal nature advisors describe how they have criminal enterprises juxtaposed with our areas and how they're trying to take it by putting them in jail. In the jail, the psychologists in the jail, they're with evidence fabrication methods with them. They're with terror rolls, with drugs, um, and with all kinds of insidious relationships to the streets. You know, there's one guy who was reportedly pulling women over and raping them in their car, pretending to be an officer. You know, and then there's stuff like that tied to deans at both colleges with identity switching stuff at Trinity College and CCSU, and that they've been threatening women not to say anything about it. Same people, the same legal natures pretending to care about, and with the passions about some of the issues, but not others, because they're to the maintenance of what stays them to the maintenance of live progressions, and by having that maintained, then when they need to, they affect conversations and confessions and need for people to know and to misdirect federal investigations, you know, even using court police. So, you know, these things take, you know, I mean, this is with timing positions. When you ask to deal with specific facts, no one will take a position in writing in relationship to the nature of how they justify police telling so many lies to the areas, you know, pretending, and then following people that went to their schools they never even had a conversation with, because they want to, you know, the way they use the drugs too, to have in relationship to the same people being used on falsified police reports, falsified witnesses. You know, they're enabling this by enabling those witnesses with drug rolls and all, and life progressions through time in relationship to the things needed to be reported. So we have systemic facts mistreatment. You look at any exploited urban area, and only honest leadership just puts a mark down and starts going after the liars behind exploiting it. That's it. It's that simple.